Hello everyone, my name is Rexy, and welcome to this leg of the Pokemon Maralocke covering the Johto region in Generation 4. The Maralocke has a Nuzlocke of the 32 mainline games in release order. The standard Nuzlocke rules will in play, plus no overleveling past the gym leader's ace, and the species I used in the Hall of Fame can't be used again. That means I can't reuse anything that got into the Hall of Fame up to this point. Check out the playlist to see where everything stands so far. Johto's Pokédex was already huge to begin with, so despite going through 14 full teams, I still have access to 66 final evolutions. Again, this doesn't include legendaries, but split evolutions are allowed. I have more options for evolution stones beyond just a Pokegear this time. Thus, it's now possible to champ Sunflower without winning the bug catching contest, provided I get access to pickup. Similarly, the Safari Zone can give me access to Larvitar if possible, but the Champion's Ace is still as low as ever, so it can only go through endgame as a Pupitar. Despite the extensive selection, I had learned from the last video that I'll have a low selection for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, so it's up to me to try and champ things that don't already appear in the Sinnoh region if I can help it. Additionally, I play with the Soft Tube's claws. If I have its Pokédex entry, I don't catch it, but that does mean catching more than one of an evolutionary line. So, let's discuss Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver. If Fire Red and Leaf Green are considered the insane trilogy of Pokemon remakes, this is more the treatment given to Final Fantasy VII. All additions for the past two generations' mechanics are there with natures, abilities, the physical special split, and the return of a day-night cycle. Yes, we still have the under-leveled experience, but we also had Pokemon that walk out of their balls. That doesn't sound right. But we also had Pokemon that walk alongside you, the Pokeathlon, the new Safari Zone, Pokewalker access, a more elaborated story, added details to the overworld, and this pair of games was released in 2009! I should get going. At the Pokemon Lab in Newbark Town, Professor Elm sent me on an errand for a Mr. Pokemon dude and got me to choose a partner as my personal bodyguard. After Johto Stardust, only Cyndaquil was left to champ at this point, so both games started with that and named them Orsted and Sly. Oh, and if you haven't played Live Alive before and you've got a Nintendo Switch, go check out the free demo in the eShop at least. That game needs more fans. Hashtag not sponsored. And of all the junk my mom packed before my trip, a pair of running shoes wasn't one of them. Thankfully, at Cherry Grove City, a kind elderly stranger noticed me struggling to walk with my moldy footwear and gave me some for free. The cheaper Pokegear would have saved money for clothes that don't make me look like a farmer. I collected the egg for Mr. Pokemon, but I should have done so faster to prevent the petty thievery that's happened at the lab while I was out there. So we dashed through the grass, scrapped with a redhead kid in a walking Gatorade bottle, then mentioned my side of the story to the police upon arrival. Interrogation is the worst thing possible, but my friend Ethan came to the rescue, taught me how to catch a Pokemon, then gave me some Pokeballs. I was set to confide in some utter strangers. On Route 29, both parties met a Sentret each. HeartGold tried to catch it, but struggled initially and tried to weaken it more, but nope. I know that Orsted is a demon in the making, but that's taking it too literally. Thankfully, SoulSilver caught the thing and named him Ryoichi. Both parties were in the best timeline at Route 46 and met the Geodude pair Cube and Mugshots. And the species pair continued at Route 30 with the Pidgeotto, Carry and Puffin. Things deviated slightly at Route 31 as HeartGold secured you in the Bellsprouts and SoulSilver befriended Bob the Weedle. Yeah, not that Bob, or that Bob, or that Bob. This Bob. The depths of the Dark Cave gave SoulSilver access to Arpeggio the Zubats, but in HeartGold, Cube tackled their Zubat encounter too hard and killed that too. At least both parties played smart once at Violet City. The only thing both parties could catch at the Sprout Tower was the Rattata duo Samo and Raleigh, meaning a better shot at something good on Route 32. Indeed, HeartGold took on Matsu the Mareep, and SoulSilver begrudgingly took on Contessa the Bellsprouts. The only thing left to grab here encounter-wise was in Violet City. I think the gang could fish something here later, or get an egg from this Primo guy hanging around inside the Pokemon Center. This guy would give you gifts if you say a specific combination of words, and were considered retrievable for members of the Pokemon Daisuke Club website. However, these gifts relied entirely on the player's trainer ID, and thanks to the code generator on PokeWiki.de, HeartGold was able to say that he's a legit grandpa with an obsession for treasure, and SoulSilver served as an effective teacher of your typical RPG loot chest monsters. The parties gained access to a Wooper and Mareep egg respectively and carried them up Sprout Tower, which is now mandatory to complete before going into the gym. Though by that point, both squads had a resistance to the trainers Bellsprout and Hoothoot, so it was still straightforward. In the run-up to the gym battle, the teams kept running with the eggs. Then Annie and Carmelita were born and ready to give all they got. Additionally, Bob evolved all the way into a Beedrill for SoulSilver. But even when up to par with Falconer's Ace, bugs are still a horrible matchup for his flying types. But at least they don't have Mudslap this time. HeartGold opted with Thundershock spam all the way. Matsu took out the Pidgey in one go, but because of one sand attack that lowered his accuracy, what was meant to be a straightforward 2-shot against his illegal level 13 Pidgeotto got delayed. Lucky for us, one of his attacks paralyzed that dreaded bird, and the last attack hit right when he ended up in crit range from its tackle assaults. SoulSilver also started strong with Carmelita landing an all-cool Thundershock on the Pidgey. However, the Pidgeotto's first tackle hit it for a crit, making a 2-shot too risky. Mugshot went in, tanked another tackle for chip damage, and finished it off with a rock throw. On the way down south, Orsted and Sly reached their next evolved forms as a Quilava, making them more than ready to brave through the Union Cave. That passage led to Azalea Town on the other side, where some remnants of Team Rocket wanted to pretend the last few years of their lives didn't exist and were chopping tails off the resident Slowpoke. HeartGold still needed a Zubat, so Mad Dog got caught safely on Route 33. And thanks to Dupe's Claws, Tycho and Geisha got placed in the box after meeting them in Slowpoke Well. The squads chased the Rockets out and went so hard that Matsu and Carmelita both evolved into a Fluffy along the way, as well as Ryoichi into a ferret for SoulSilver. These fights drew the attention of that thieving rival, so the squads battled him outside Islak Forest. HeartGold almost went damageless. Carrie went against Ghastly, but all it did was trap her with Mean Look as she nailed 2 gusts on it, with the second one being a crit. Matsu went in for the Crocodile and spammed Thundershock while getting scary face speed drops along the way. But the second attack got it paralyzed, and it was all clean sailing from there. The Zubat, however, landed a Supersonic against Cube, meaning he went through 2 turns of hitting himself in the face before finally dispatching it with a rock throw. In SoulSilver, Ryoichi went first against the Ghastly and got ready to fight with Foresight, but it in turn dropped a curse on him. Thankfully, a quick attack took away the rest of his HP. Carmelita faced the same thing as Matsu against Croconaw. Thundershock spam, scary face retaliation, but no paralysis this time. And then Mugshot went against Zubat. This time, Supersonic missed, allowing a clean Oko with rock throw. Immediately after that was Bugsy's Bug-type gym, and both teams had different leads to see what worked better. Orsted went up first for HeartGold. He tanked 2 quick attacks while casting 2 embers on it, while using the Shell Bell picked up earlier to recover HP with each attack and stay out of crit range for as long as possible. Once at risk, I swapped into Cube and finished it off with a rock throw, all while tanking the quick attack on Switch. From there, Orsted was free to torch the 2 cocoons in the back. SoulSilver led with Mugshots, but it seemed like a bad idea, because the Cypher started off with U-turn and redirected rock throw onto Metapod. A potion heal fridge later, and Mugshot squished it with 2 more hurled stones. Since he was at the point where a crit U-turn would kill, I then tagged in Sly, who ran the Cypher into the ground with Ember. Along the way, it had used focus energy, so if any move hit a crit, I'd also be in danger. Both opponents also tried to get the finishing quick attack in at the same time, but the Cypher didn't land a crit, leaving Sly to snipe that kill. And then Kakuna. I just let Puff and 2H kill it with Gust. Not like Poison Sting was even a threat at that point. At Highlands Forest, some unskilled bird trainer lost control of his Farfetch'd, so I tracked them down and got the Cut HM as a reward, which I immediately taught to Yoon and Ryoichi. Pervane was a man who could teach Headbutt to any compatible Pokemon, so Matsu and Ryoichi got the move and helped us out for some more encounters. Back at Azalea Town, both parties met a Napalm each and named them Taro and Salim, both with different abilities. Taro ended up with Runaway, which would turn into Technician on Evolution. Boosted power for low power moves sounded amazing, but he merely ended up on reserve. Salim, however, had Pickup, meaning he was ready to live the life of a Master Thief on the floor. SoulSilver was also able to head to Route 33 and was finally able to get an encounter there. Neither the Heracross, also from a Headbutt tree. Only then were the squads ready to leave through the forest at the other side, where Kaori and Neela helped a wandering lady find a way out of here. Wait, have you both got family here or something? Over on Route 34, the squads met the drowsy pair Yodagami and Guru, and the Pidgey duo reached their next form as Pidgeotto by that point. SoulSilver went a little further north of Goldenrod City to also catch Penelope the female Nidoran on Route 35. The gangs also passed by the daycare, a few feet south of Goldenrod. Everyone knows the drill by now. These guys look after up to 2 Pokemon at a time, with each step taken being a point of experience for them inside. And I had used some interesting specimens that exclusively hung out in the daycare on past runs. HeartGold didn't use it right away, but SoulSilver dropped off Salim and Penelope. The way pickup works from Emerald onwards is that there's a different item pool every 10 levels, so the higher the level, the better the chance that the more useful items you can use in a playthrough. I said bye to the staff on the way out and... What? Salim and Penelope are in the same egg group? Why am I seeing deja vu? To get inside the gym at Goldenrod, I had to let that dumbest Bricks leader Whitney in on the radio card quiz answers inside the radio tower. Since when can an apricot get turned into a Poke Pokeball. Has she ever dissected one before? Well, her normal type team was said to have more bones than brains, so I had to be on my guard. For HeartGold, Orsted went out first against a Clefberry. All it pulled for Metronome was agility, which made no difference to the turn order as he pushed through with Ember Spam. It opted for double slap for the rest of its time out, even with a single potion heal. Then came the Miltank. Unfortunately, Kari's Gust wasn't strong enough to push for its bulk defenses, so I then swapped into Q when she went into crit range. Following this, I felt the lamest pile of crap I had ever seen. Getting hit with a tract, meaning you have to deal with a higher chance of stomp flinching or low immobilization than sending out any kind of magnitude. Eventually, it ran out of stomps, it started using rollouts more, and finally, Cubes following uses of magnitude connected and won us the third badge. And a sloppy badge that put some of my potion stock down the drain. SoulSilver, however, had a total wash. Naylor ran a break one-shot on the Clefberry. Her Miltank did outspeed, but Stomp neither flinched nor hit a crit, so that got met with a 2-hit KO on the same move. The gang's ready to keep fighting their way through the northern parts of the map. That's meant getting close to more evolutions, like with Annie. I felt a once ago would be enough to save a Circus Clowns illegal Magmar, but I failed to notice 2 layer defense drops thanks to speed up, meaning a feint attack got a straight kill. Once again, I rushed things and got punished for it. The Pucks at least still had another water type, so Tycho joined the party. Further north on Route 36, HeartGold took on Belle the Stansler, and the search for anything to catch went so hard that Yoon evolved into a Weeping Belle. A little girl told me about a suspicious tree, so I grabbed a squirt bottle back at Goldenrod, started disintegrating it with the water and let the party do the rest of the work, and got a portable gardening kit as a reward. I've always wanted to take a greenhouse on the road! On Route 37, HeartGold met Ordeal the Spinnerack and SoulSilver headbutted a tree for Decibel the Execute. The Aquatic City Pokemon Center was where I met Bill, who looks like he was fresh out of a Zoom meeting after hanging with some tech support kids from far away. After he left to see his family in Goldenrod, the squad stopped for a chat and took on a stray Eevee each, naming them Lee Kugo and Henriette. Yes, that's 3 gifted female Eevee in a row. What kind of odds is this? HeartGold stayed around for a little longer and finally got the daycare train rolling, putting Belle and Audio in there together. Once back at Aquatique, the squads checked out the burnt tower and bumped into the rival again. HeartGold faced the same outcome as earlier, i.e. an almost damageless run that had Cube act like a derp. I didn't intend to lead with him, but Rock Throw almost took out the Ghastly in one go. The problem is that he was slower and got hit by Confuse Ray, and the Ghastly got the last laugh after parting with a Curse Drop. Everything else went great though. Crocodile got a smooth Twitch kill for the Shock Run from Matsu, and the Scary Face speed drops were no issue against the Zubats that failed to land a Supersonic and got met with the same move. Finally, Orsted turned his Magnemite into a liquid metal puddle with Flame Wheel before it could even get going. SoulSilver told Surf to Ryoichi prior to the battle, so he used that to take out Ghastly in 2 turns despite Confuse Ray getting in the way. Mugshot's Magnitude hit a level 6 Oko on the Magnemite. Carmelita's Thunder Shock took 2 turns to take out the Crocodile, yet she tanked an Ice Fang that also set off her static ability. And Carmelita got hit from a Supersonic against the Zubat, meaning I had to shake it off with Mugshot, who tanked a bite and took it out with a single Rock Throw. Once the Elemental Poochie started running around the map, the squads finally got access to the Aquatique Gym. In one fight, I had Yoon up front for experience despite the type disadvantage. However, one trainer Saunter used a mean look, hit him with Confuse Ray and put on a curse. And he was unable to break out of confusion, meaning I once again lost the plan to the stupidness of circumstances against a spooky ghost. So after getting Belle out of the daycare to fill the void, the squad opted to find more options to the west of Aquatique. HeartGold really wants to catch a Tauros here, knowing how incredible they were even in Generation 2. And the search once again went so hard that Cube evolved into a Graveler. During this time, the group learned that Miltank is now able to learn Bite at a much lower level in Gen 4. I didn't notice thanks to Speed Up again, and that's how Matsu died. Am I seriously replacing half of the team before the next batch? Eventually, Sundown got found and caught, but he didn't get out of the box at all. In desperation, HeartGold used Matsu's lifeless head as a battering ram on the trees at Route 42 and met Rachel the Heracross in the process. Not great for the gym ahead, but any kind of muscle is still solid in my book. SoulSilver didn't find anything important in comparison, but at least Mugshot evolved into a Graveler and then into a Golem via trade. What we did need for the gym was coverage moves for our normal types, and one solid answer for that was over at the game corner in Goldenrod City. For the price of absolutely free, players can go through Bolt Orb Flip, which is some Minesweeper, P-Cross, Sudoku game thing. puzzles can be solvable to a point, so the moment when chance ends up in play, it's better to stop. Either way, the coins earned from playing the game could be used to buy TMs here, and unlike the original games, the essential moves of the Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Flamethrower are all here. And combined with Surf Bracket Equitique, the squads can opt for a flexible loadout. Ryoichi stayed as a surfing rodent and Belle got powered up with a jolt of energy, and so it was time to take on Morty's ghost types. In HeartGold, Belle took out the Ghastly right away with Thunderbolts, but didn't do the same with the first Haunter as it ran a curse to up itself. To shake off the effects, I brought in Cowie against Gengar, then went back into Belle in time for her to be locked into Mean Lock. It was all Thunderbolt spam from there while it kept retaliating with Sucker Punch splash damage. At one point, it put it to sleep with Hypnosis, which I used an Awakening for. But after a potion heal from Morty and some fortunate sleep look, Belle took out the Gengar like a rogue power supply. And then there was the stronger Haunter. I winged it with Thunderbolt, which paralyzed, leaving her to go in for the kill. Then there was SoulSilver. Ryoichi took out the Ghastly with 2 Surfs, 3 including a potion heal, but did face a Mean Lock. When he switched into his first Haunter, I brought in Puffin to offset the block. She handled it with 2 Gusts and Curse setup damage. I shook it off with a switch back to Ryoichi against the Gengar. It set up Mean Look right away, then started chipping away with Sucker Punch. And aside from passive healing turns with potions, there was no way to avoid getting hit, so potion use for me was inevitable. On top of that, Hypnosis landed several times, dragging this out more than it should. Once all the Sucker Punch PP had ran dry, it was a case of waiting for Ryoichi to wake and keep hanging 10. Tubular. And because of Mean Look and Puffin's health not looking so hot, Sly went against the stronger Haunter. Flamethrower wasn't enough to take it out right away. Not like Nightshade could still do anything more dangerous. So after Morty's potion heal, Flame Wheel into Flamethrower was a more viable option. With Surf now available, the squads then went north to the rain dish that was the Lake of Rage and learned about a giant red Gyarados in the lake. Gold tried to catch one back in Gen 2, but ran into a Magikarp before it was even possible. There's no way it'll happen again! Oh, hello, Magikarp. I guess Aki got caught and dumped in the box. And SoulSilver had way better luck encountering and catching a Jean there and then. But the group opted to save its usefulness for when the time calls. Back on dry land, this land guy told me about a strange radio signal coming from the Mahogany Oldie. So we went inside, saw Decamere and play with a giant dragon, then found a way into a secret Team Rocket's base. The squads were also hits listing every trainer inside, including this scientist. And he decided to let me know that Coffee can learn self-destruct by that point, which got used to kill Orsted. Who's going to press the Armageddon button now? Filling the dead spot was Yodelgame, who could at least add some well-needed mind manipulation after evolving into a Hypno. Oh, and Cube finally became a Golem here. He and Mugshot were fantastic wards against the Electrode powering up the radio transmitter. Why aren't we using dirt to insulate power cables again? I went to Olivan City next and bumped into our thieving rival. The local gym leader Jasmine was stuck in the lighthouse caring for an electric sheep that had fallen ill. I met her at the top and heard that she can't leave its side long enough to get to medicine at Xianwood. Time to go for a swim, huh? Along the way, both parties met a tentacle on Route 40, naming them Yuki and Sally. And Carmelita also evolved into her next form as an Ampharos while out there, and the ocean had fed no mercy since. Just like in the originals, the gym leader triple threats that is Chuck, Price, and Jasmine can get battled in any order. And while the former two's levels got changed up since Gen 2, the intended Nuzlocke order didn't. So it was time to exchange some fighting words with Dad Bod Chuck. In HeartGold, Yodelgame handled the fight alone, spamming Psybeam on both the Primeape and the Poliwrath to fantastic results. The Primeape tried to set up with Double Team and flinch with Rockslide, but she didn't miss at all. And the Poliwrath tried to put it to sleep with Hypnosis, but nope, her ability was Insomnia instead of Forewarn. One failed attempt to Body Slam Paralyze later, and a 3H kill Psybeam ended the fight. Then there's SoulSilver. Primeape tried to set up with Double Team, but guess what? Aerial Ace never misses. Naylor couldn't quite OHKO it, but after a potion heal, the second attempt landed a crit. Carmelita was slower than the Poliwrath, which tried to make things more difficult with Body Slam, but no paralysis and attempting Focus Punch for next turn meant a straightforward Thunderbolt's 2H KO. And so, the squads raced back to the lighthouse so Jasmine could do her— Oh, HeartGold forgot to get Jasmine her stupid medicine. Well, SoulSilver was one step ahead and casually in for the bug-catching contest of a national park. The encounter there was a Butterfree, but it poisoned Carmelita with poison powder and limited our chances to catch it. And sadly, we had to run to save her life. We needed to cool down after that scare, and Price's Ice-type gym at Mahogany Town was perfect for the job. In HeartGold, Bell zapped 3 Thunderbolts on the Ice-typing training that was Seal, which could only bring in chip damage with Icy Wind. Tycho Surf took out all of Piloswine's health, but it was faster and set up Hail. And even with 1 attack drop from Aurora Beam, Rachel's Brick was still a 2-hit KO on the Dewgong. Carmelita was a more efficient lead for SoulSilver. She ran an Orco Thunderbolt on both the Seal and Dewgong, though the latter outsped and brought an Aurora Beam for chip damage. Neela handled the Piloswine with 2 Brick Breaks, and thankfully his Ice Fang attack didn't freeze her along the way. With Whirlpool now available, HeartGold decided to go fishing inside the dark depths of the Whirl Islands. And after dusting away a lot of dupes, the squad encountered a Horsey, which got caught and named Akira. He went on to hang out in the daycare. While SoulSilver trained a little more for Jasmine, the party contracted Pokérus. There's 2 legs that I've had to deal with double DEV gain per battle, so I quickly found a guinea pig in the box to carry the strain in case I may need it for a late game build. Before long, it was time to make a huge dent out of Jasmine's steel types back at Olivine. Cube and Mugshot both hit an Earthquake Orco on the Magnemite pair, as they do. Then there was a Steelix. HeartGold's fighting choice of Tycho could only execute a 2-hit KO Surf, but she dodged an Iron Tail and only took damage from Sandstorm getting set up. SoulSilver opted for Neela, sending in 3 Brick Breaks. With a Screech attack drop, I felt like I would have needed Slice help if Iron Tail hit, but it missed, and it's where we are. Back outside, Professor Elm called me and told me that Team Rocket was spreading some weird propaganda across national radio, which led me on a chase through the Goldenrod City to storm through the radio tower. While fighting the grunts deep inside, Sly reached his final form as a Typhlosion, and the Pidgeotto duo were ready to soar as a Pidgeot duo. The infamous Rocket Executive with 5 exploding coughing and an equally booming wheezing was still there. And based on typing, Mugshot made a great explosion roll for SoulSilver. If he didn't get poisoned! I didn't want to risk an explosion crit either, so I regrettably had to heal him up while taking care of the wheezing, and then I let Carmelita shock the small fry. Seriously, that was the only tricky part. The rival didn't bother to grind much, so the squads had no problems there either. And the lead executive can also get walled if you've got something that can resist his Houndoom. In the aftermath, Tycho evolved into a Slowbro, and the chairman of this thanksgiving gave me this detached bird wing that's of no use to anyone. I guess I'll embellish my back with this thing. The squads then skipped along Route 44, where HeartGold took on Pogo the Tangler, and SoulSilver wraps tongues with a Lickitung that got named Jing King. And after the endless impromptu skating lessons at the Ice Path, Blackthorne City awaited at the other side with the scary Dragon-type gym in waiting. I needed something to put them on ice, so I played more Voltorb Flip, used the spoils to teach Ice Beam to Tycho and Ryoichi, and passed a magnet over to Bell for added power on Thunderbolts. With preparations in place, the gang played Hot Potato across the gym and fought Claire on the other side. Bell opened for HeartGold and zapped the Gyarados right away with Thunderbolts. Tycho handled the Dragonair pair, but got paralyzed on the first pass, and despite this, she broke through and gave the first one the chills with a single Ice Beam. She couldn't do the same with the second one, but she did freeze it, giving us an opportunity to use a paralyzed heal while Claire used a Hyper Potion. But Shitskin thought it out, so she had to play the paralyzed game again, and yet she still managed to Ice Beam it to death no problem. Then, Kingdra. Yotagimi was the only decent special defense tank that I had, so I let her go toe-to-toe against it. It was faster and used a smoke screen on the first turn, but she still put it to sleep no problem, advanced Side Beam for mere splash damage until it woke up. At its last pinch of health, it went for a Hyper Beam, which Yotagimi tanked and was ready to finish as it recharged itself. She missed Side Beam twice in a row. So I resorted to a Hyper Potion to get out of normal kill range, then on the following turn, she tanked a Hydro Pump and the Side Beam actually hit! Honestly, in retrospect, I could have just used Carrie's Quick Attack with the Silk Scarf boost after the Hyper Beam hits, but here we are. SoulSilver was also prepared to let soldiers fall if need be. Carmelita led with a one-shot Thunderbolt on the Gyarados, as it should. Then Ryoichi went up against the first Dragonair. Ice Beam was a 2-hit KO even with the Nevermelt Ice, which gave it room to paralyze and use Dragon Pulse at the start of the second turn. I am so thankful he broke out of it and landed the final blow. Then there's Kingdra. I was willing to let Carmelita go here, so I let her use Thunder Wave while tanking the Dragon Pulse. I clicked Thunderbolt next. It was fully paralyzed. I clicked Thunderbolt for a second time. It used its Citrus Berry and was fully paralyzed again. So that secured a 3H KO. Finally, the second Dragonair. I was unsure if this one had Fire Blast or Aqua Tail, so I brought in Puffin with the intention to use Twister on it. But once that paralyzed her, 2 Dragon Pulses and 2 fully powers later meant she had to get pulled out. I then gambled on Mugshots, thinking that Aqua Tail can't be an Orco anyway due to his beefy physical defense. But he tagged 2 Dragon Pulses, then used Earthquake to ram it to the ground. Unfortunately, Claire thought I got off lightly in both games and refused to give me the badge, instead sending me on a test in the Dragon's Den to really prove my worth. The tentacle duo Yuki and Sally helped the gang past the whirlpools deeper inside, where I had to bare my soul to head staff at the RSPCA. Ultimately, Claire got told to give the badge to us, and we moved along. With access to Waterfall under our belts, HeartGold then went off the beaten path towards the depths of Mount Mortar. The group picked up a dragon scale deep inside, as well as met a karate trainer going through some very rigorous training, but I don't think he even touched grass enough. Once he got tumbled in battle, he graciously gave us a Tyrogue that I named Masaru. This thing has 3 final forms, but 2 of them are banned per my rule set, and we'll get to that when the time comes. Back outside, Professor L nagged me to return to his lab, where he gave me a master ball that he got via a raffle for nerds and told me there were some girls in Equitique that wanted my autograph. Or so I thought, because these 5 kimono-clad ladies challenged me in a gauntlet with an evolution each, and thankfully the squads overwhelmed them. They gave me an old bicycle bell, which was used to summon Holo at the top of Tin Tower for HeartGold, and Lugia back inside the Whirl Islands for SoulSilver. They both got caught in the Master Balls we received, but their only purpose would be to serve as fly mules in case the Pidgeotto will fall. Once all that was over, Professor Elm encouraged me to head for the Pokémon League, which was a long trip east of Newburgh Town. The tentacle duel had the power to hurl the entire squad over waterfalls, but HeartGold felt then was the time to bring Akira out to the daycare and let him take that role. With Yodogimi on the bench, he trained up and he used the Dragon Scale to evolve all the way into Kingdra. Claire will quake in her boots. The path to the league was a lengthy one, but had mostly no problems, at least for HeartGold. SoulSilver, on the other hand, faced major issues against an ace trainer and his Golduck, with confusion trickery that prevented Carmelita from sending out her usual thunder magic. Even Neela and Puffin struggled to keep up with that thing as well. Ultimately, it got to the point that anyone I switched into to shake off confusion would die, so I risked everything on Puffin, and she was unable to snap out of it. Yes, it took this long, but it's a casualty for SoulSilver. She had been on the team for so long, and it's sad to see she wouldn't even get through Victory Road with us. Who replaced her? Well, Mugshot initially got left behind, which at least saved me from teaching Stem to someone else just so we could get through the caves. And once again, the thieving rival had a party lower in level than Claire's, and aside from teaching Ice Beam to Feraligatr, I have no idea how he even got here. Finally, we saw daylight and the sights of the Indigo Plateau, which meant going through the squads and figuring out who to take with me into endgame. HeartGold had a fun squad, but everyone got benched apart from Belle and Akira. Rounding up the rest of the gang was Pogo, who evolved into a Tangrowth after learning Ancient Power, Lee Kugo, who evolved into a Umbreon after getting super friendly during the night, Audio, who became a creepy-looking Ariados, and Masaru, with the only split evolution available being Hitmontop, and that required his attack and defense stats to be equal. Sally and Mugshot went back into the box of SoulSilver, while Penelope and Henriette took their places. The form evolved all the way into a Nidoqueen thanks to leveling up and the Moonstone. As for Henriette, I could have just waited on Pokegear calls, but instead I made a move to the Pokeathlon Dome, located west of a national park. I could have just gone in here after defeating Whitney, but I didn't know what my party would be like going forward. The Pokeathlon is a sports event where teams of 3 participate across 3 minigames based around 1 of 5 different stats. Each full round gives the player athlete points to spend at the various shops on the premises, and an extra 100 points will be granted if the team finished first overall. The athlete shop is useful for having rotating rare items depending on the day of the week, and by endgame, that place had a water stone on sale. I bought it with the points I saved up, then used it to evolve Henriette into a Vaporeon. Finally, we got a water type! Once again, HeartGold had no access to a pickup mule. SoulSilver had more options to gather rare candies, but both squads still got brought as close to the top end of the level cap as they could, while still starting off at the same level as Karen's Houndoom. They'll need all the energy they can get while going up against the final gauntlet that is the Elite Four. Just like in the Kanto remakes, the goal is to use the same Pokemon with different moves, so once again, Will's team of psychic types had more Totem Bird power than necessary. Bell led for HeartGold. Even with the Magnus, Thunderbolt wasn't enough to OHKO the first Xatu, so she had to take a Psychic before finishing it off after a Potion Heal. Lee then went in for the rest of the way, alternating between Faint Attacks and Dark Pulses depending on what defensive strategy the rest of his team went for, while also using the Shell Bell for some healing. Ice Punches from Jinx barely did anything, Slowball tried to use Amnesia and didn't anticipate physical prowess from Faint Attack, Executor's Hypnosis missed, and the second Xatu resorted to Aerial Ace, which again barely did anything. For SoulSilver, commonly to Thunderbolt OHKO and the Xatu got turned into its head briefly thanks to me first. Next was the Jinx. However, it put it to sleep with Lovely Kiss, prompting a switch to Sly on Psychic. He then falls with Flamethrower, one-shotting both that and the Executor that followed. Henriette also got her first one in the limelight, pushing down the Slowbro with 2 Shadow Balls as it tried to set up with Curse for some reason. She stayed in for the second Xatu, using an Ice Beam to send it to the freezer. Newly promoted Koga was next to fight in line. In HeartGold, Audio went first against his own Ariados and dealt 2 Psychics on it, only tanking a Poison Jab. Akira's Ice Beam handled the Crobat in 2 hits. Then came the bulky Fortress, which is why I gave the Orchid Berry to Pogo, but Natural Gift barely took down half of its health. I then changed tactics to spamming Agent Power to hopefully try and get an Omni Boost, but then I ran out of PP for that move. Koga healed, there were 2 layers of Toxic Spikes out, and then he got fed up with alternating Protect with Swift and switched to Muck. This was getting rough. I switched back into Audio, whose typing removed the Toxic Spikes from the field, and I didn't even know that was a thing at the time. And despite Muck using Minimize twice, all uses of Psychic connected and took out that purple blob, all while tanking Ghost Shot. Getting badly beaten, I went into Bell for Venom Mob for some reason, but it worked out because she took it out with a crit return, and Fortress was back on the field again, which meant once again having to deal with the prospects of it going bang. I used my best physical tank with Lee, kept spamming Dark Pulse, and her use of Shell Bell recovery helped her escape even from the prospect of an explosion kill. Yet it still only opted to fight with Swift for some reason. SoulSilver in comparison went for a straight-up massacre. Sly ran an OHKO Flamethrower through the Ariados, Fortress, and Venomoth. His Muck and Crobat tried to settle with Minimize and Double Team, but both Earthquakes from Penelope connected on the former, and a single Thunderbolt from Carmelita hit the latter. No damage! Bruno was up next, but Pogo needed more natural gift ammo, so he got given a Cobra Berry to hold in preparation. Audio went first against the Hitmontop for HeartGold. After missing Psychic on the first dig turn, she then landed a crit which puts it in Potion Heal range. I took the chance to earn agility, then used that move every time I knew for sure that dig would never assault. Psychic was obviously what I needed to get through in the end. Pogo got flinched from Onyx's Rock Slide, but after 2 attempts, he got his health back from a Mega Drain OHKO. Masari got his first taste reaction against Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, running a Technician-boosted Aerial Ace OHKO on both of them while only tanking a Blaze Kick from the former. Then there's Machamp, and I felt the only way for me to get through it was to rely on Akira and pray that Cross Chop doesn't crit. And it didn't! He survived 2 hits, then used Surf to wash it away. SoulSilver led with Sly because of his fast speed, but his Flamethrower couldn't quite OHKO Hitmontop. As it went on to dig under the ground, I switched to Neela to tank the hit and the Quick Attack, then decked it in with 2 Aerial Aces. For Hitmonlee, Penelope hit an Earthquake 2 HK as it merely tried to set up with Focus Energy. Henriette ran a Surf all over the Onyx. For Hitmonchan, I brought in Sly as he can resist 3 of its attacks outright. He did have to take a burn-hindered Thunder Punch, but Flamethrower still got the job done. And then Machamp. I used Penelope because at least she could resist everything it has. It made me wish she had Poison Points instead of Rivalry because 1, Earthquake would have done more damage, and 2, having no gun instead of Guts meant the Machamp's attack couldn't get boosted either. But a whole load of Earthquake spam and tanked cross-chop attacks later, and we got there. Leading the group was Karen's Dark types, ready to dim the lights on all opponents. Masaru went first against Umbreon for HeartGold. Despite the double team setup, she couldn't escape from a passive revenge attack, bringing it into low HP even with a potion heal. And Aerial Ace was needed to bring down the rest of its health. Bell's Thunderbolt zapped the Murkrow in 1 turn. Then came the Gengar, disposed of with a Psychic 2 shots from Audio. Unfortunately, on that second turn, the opponent went first with Destiny Bond and claimed her life. I guess we're fighting lands without our Queen of Demons. I brought in Akira, while Karen brought in Houndoom. He went for a Waterfall 2 shots, thinking that Houndoom's physical-based defenses are lower than its special, and yet Dark Pulse merely did chip damage back. Finally, Vileplume. Masaru's Aerial Ace wasn't quite an OHKO, and he got paralyzed from Stun Spore, but he broke through the paralysis and took it out even with the potion heal accounted for. In SoulSilver, Neela's Break couldn't fully defeat the Umbreon on the first turn. It tried to set up with Double Team, and the potion heal also denied a straight kill with Aerial Ace. Luckily, Eventually, the second Great Break connected and broke it into bricks. Commonly attacked a Fate's attack from the Murkrow, then handled it with a single Thunderbolt. Henriette pushed through a Dark Pulse from Houndooms to swamp it with Surf. But then came Gengar, which I initially built Penelope out for. Even with the attack boost from Rivalry, Crunch wasn't enough to dispose of it. And anticipating a Destiny Bond on the next turn, I then switched into Ryoichi. But he couldn't outspeed the Gengar either, and was killed by an All-Cold Focus Blast. Sayonara, little dude. Knowing that speed was what I needed, I brought in Sly to finish it off with a Flamethrower, then All-Cold the Vileplume in the back the same way. Both parties end up a member down for the final battle, Lance, the dude who helped us back at Mahogany, and the regional champion. I used the rare candies in my bag to bring all the survivors up to level 50 to match his strongest Dragonite. Additionally, Henriette received the Never Melt Ice and was ready to do as much work as she could. HeartGold faced the ultimate rom-com with Belle and Akira. Belle opened fantastically with a Thunderbolt Orko on the Gyarados. Then Akira stepped up and ran an Orko Ice Beam on the 3 Dragonites and a critical Surf on the Charizard. Belle returned again for the Aerodactyl. She tanked a Rock Slide, which neither crit nor flinched, and she sent out a Thunderbolt, which paralyzed and secured a 2-hit KO. SoulSilver, however, didn't have it easy. His Gyarados opened with a Waterfall flinch on Carmelita, then the second one landed a crit and took it down to 5 HP. But she didn't flinch that time and hit the All-Cold Thunderbolt needed to slap it into pieces. Next up was the stronger Dragonite, which Henriette immediately took down with Ice Beam. But for some reason, the weaker Dragonair pair both went first. First one landed a Thunder and took half of her HP down before she could even Ice Beam kill back. And the second one made her flinch with Dragon Rush before she could react. Knowing this one had Blizzard, there was no way I could throw Penelope into the line of fire, so regrettably I used a Hyper Potion to heal. This Dragonite went on to paralyze her with Thunder Wave, but she still got the Ice Beam kill needed. For Aerodactyl, Penelope did indeed get brought in. Her Ice Beam would only be enough for a 3 HQ if needed, but pressure combined with Lance's full Restore stock meant she ran out of Ice Beam PP before she could even get going. So Crunch it was for the last 2 hits, all out tanking Aerial's attacks back. She also had a Hyper Potion used during that leg of the fight because of reasons. And then Charizard. Despite being paralyzed, I brought in Henriette to presumably finish the fight. However, try as I might, Surf always brought it down to red HP, and he used a full restore every time that happened until he ran out of stock. And once he did, Henriette broke out of the paralysis one last time to knock it out with a quick attack, securing victory. And just like that, Nuzlocks were completed in HeartGold and SoulSilver. Despite the hefty encounter pool, neither squad needed many fighters, and everyone contributed their worth at the final battles. Or most of them did. Having had 2 gauntlets in a row that needed everyone, I was absolutely preparing myself to do the same in later generations, which was set to be progressively harder. I'm off to Renova next time. I'll catch you in the next installment where I make my start on Generation 5, so subscribe to see the next video as it goes live. For now, Rexy out. Thanks for watching, and tell Penelope that she's the world's best mom.